those look good. A big salty clam would sure go great with this heat.
On the advice of now multiple viewers under my Velma videos who maybe wanted to ease my distress at having found myself watching Velma, I decided to give Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated a try. I haven't finished it yet, but I've watched enough I think to get the gist. And at least, unlike Velma, it wasn't shockingly racist. I'm still reeling from them making Daphne East Asian and then making her good at martial arts. I'm just waiting on tenterhooks for season 2, where they really pile on the stereotypes and reveal that Daphne is also very good at mathematics, but drives terribly badly. This after my review of The Boys, where they race swapped A-Train and made the black guy the one who runs fast, and it kind of feels like Hollywood is taking the piss. I don't think I want to review the whole of Mystery Inc. episode by episode because frankly, there are 52 episodes and at one a week, that will take me a full year. It's also a decade old, so probably no one will watch this anyway, but if this does get good views, maybe I will. And yeah, Mystery Incorporated is surprisingly quite good. And I'm going to bookend the review with the good things so it starts and ends on a high note. To start off, one of the things I liked most about Mystery Inc. was it was not Velma. It's not perfect, but even in the things I didn't like, I could see what the makers were going for. To exemplify this, the intro. It has a theme tune and an intro, and the intro is perfectly crafted for what it is. A lot of shows now don't even have them anymore, and that for me is a mistake. So what does the intro do for Mystery Inc? Well, it introduces the main characters for anyone that doesn't know them yet. It also shows some images of the characters to give you the gist of some of the characters' main features. I'm not that keen on the music that they used, but it gets across an air of spookiness and mystery and puts the viewer in the right frame of mind for the show, and it does all of these things in 20 seconds. There's no fat on it at all. And I do miss a good intro song, say the theme from Mission Impossible, the Bond theme, the intro music to Fraggle Rock or Star Trek or the A-Team, Magnum P.I., the Tom Selleck one, the Man from U.N.C.L.E. theme, Hawaii 5-0, you know, all of the stuff Hollywood is now remaking over and over again because nobody there has any new ideas. I fully expect a remake of The Raccoons or The Gummy Bears coming any day now. I read a list of things that HBO currently has in development a few days ago, and it was grim reading. They are, according to Wikipedia, making a series based on the Maniac Cop films. And who the hell even remembers Maniac Cop apart from me? These are the Robert Z'Dar ones. They were awful. They're also making a Hellraiser series, remaking True Blood, making a Scanners based series, making the series 10,000 Ships that's a spin-off from Game of Thrones, more House of the Dragon that's also a spin-off of Game of Thrones, and 9 Voyages that's a spin-off of House of the Dragon that's already a spin-off of Game of Thrones. As well as umpteen series about African Americans discovering themselves and a few series about vampires, and this is HBO now. This is the network that gave us The Wire, Rome and Deadwood. This feels like going to what I remember being a good restaurant and finding out that they have a new avant-garde chef whose special is chocolate fudge ice cream served on a bed of fermented clams. Another thing that I like in Mystery Inc. is that they added a reason for the gang to run into the mysteries. In the original series, every week the Scooby Gang would just stumble onto a mystery at random. They'd have a picnic on a beach where there just happened to be a neon green glowing submariner. I much prefer what they've done in Mystery Inc., where there's an overarching plot and the gang gets tip-offs that take them to mysteries. There's a character called Mr. E, do you get it? Who directs them to follow a trail, so it removes the need for coincidence that the original relied upon. It didn't ruin the original show, because the original never took itself too seriously, and you just had to kind of accept the silliness. And there's still a lot of silliness in Mystery Inc. The villains still make no sense whatsoever. For instance, there's a giant crab monster in one episode, and it's just a guy in a crab-shaped robotic suit. It's very self-aware, and they make fun of it. In one episode, a woman is pretending to be a vampire. Here is her at the start. And they later explain her flight by saying she used to do acrobatics and studied flying squirrels. Then she used her quad and glute muscles to give the illusion of flight.
You see, in college I majored in zoology and acrobatics, studying the habits of flying squirrels. I propelled myself into the air with my quad and glute muscles.
The show changes some things about the original, but I think what they were doing is some clever writing in order to please a wider audience. There's some adult humour that I'm guessing was there for the parents who maybe grew up with Scooby Doo, and the adult humour will probably go right over the kids' heads. But maybe enough to make the parents smirk at each other.
Those look good. A big salty clam would sure go great with this heat. Maybe it's time we set a little trap for Crystal Cove's knob stealer.
There's a focus on relationships, which, although it doesn't really do that much for me, it tends to please a female audience. There's still some action for a male audience, some childish slapstick for the kids, and all in all, you have something that looks to be a pretty well crafted family show. Now on to the bad. Much like Velma, Mystery Inc. is sadly self-aware, and I'm getting so bored with that. It feels like everything is self-aware and deconstructionist now. Everything seems to reference the real world, and we seem to have lost any genuine attempt at escapism. I remember the magic of having a world like Star Wars, with the fantastical technology, a world where you just want to inhabit it. Filmmaking seems to have lost that quality of fantastical wonder. The magic has gone. Or maybe it's still there and I'm just too surly to notice it at this point. Again in the bad, they've done some really weird stuff with the characters, like Velma, but maybe not quite as bad. The Mystery Inc. version of Fred is very confusing. In Velma, they wrote Fred as stupid. In Mystery Inc., he seems to be severely autistic. He misses obvious social cues and has an obsession with traps that is worryingly obsessive. In Mystery Inc., at one point, he reveals that he broke into Daphne's family's house to install traps just in case a bad guy turned up. He did that to all of his friends, not even because a threat was there. He did it just in case a threat turned up, and much like Velma, the men are almost always the butt of the joke. And at one point, Fred has what looks like a girly mag tucked in between his couch cushions, and it turns out to just be a red-hot magazine about traps. Like nets and snares, not the other ones. Daphne and Velma are now also kind of weird as well. Velma spends a lot of time seeking a relationship with Shaggy, and I'm hoping they don't ever cover how Shaggy got that name. And the relationships are on the toxic side. Velma is immediately trying to change the way Shaggy dresses. She starts buying him clothes to replace his, nags him to change his diet. In one episode, she wants him to change the way he talks and starts to hit him every time he says like. She then tries to get him to choose between her and his best friend Scooby, and Shaggy chooses the dog. In addition, the animation is better than that in the original Scooby Doo. Mystery Inc. makes frequent use of CGI in the animation, which gives a much better feeling of motion, although there are some weird style choices, like choosing to give Daphne indigo dots for eyes. Another thing I didn't like about Mystery Inc. is the overt sexualisation of the female characters. They've changed Velma to make her visibly more busty than she was in the original series, and I don't think it was needed at all. She was fine as the homely smart girl. A Victoria's Secret model is not the only valid type of woman. And in one episode, they also dressed up Daphne like this. Like she had a side gig in a speciality club that has a basement converted into a dungeon. How old are the characters even supposed to be in this series? And why is it doing the same thing as Velma in sexualising very young people? Mystery Inc. also tries to be true to the original. It maintains the episodal structure. Every episode has a villain and a little mystery contained within it. They're never great mysteries, and they never have been, even in the original. They usually introduce one new character in the episode, and it's almost always them that turns out to be the villain. But that's good for kids. It's good for them to have something reliable. And to end the review on a high note, one of the things that I like most about Mystery Inc. was it was not Velma.
Maybe it's time we set a little trap for Crystal Cove's knob stealer.